welcome everyone to the July board meeting for Ignite CDA. If we'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Roll each other over.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. First up on our agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I'll go to the next topic is the consent calendar. If I could get a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I will move to approve the consent calendar to include approval of minutes for board meeting June 17th, 2026, approval of payables as submitted, and approval of district monthly financial statements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just want to make a comment that I'm very thankful for our executive director Will's work and our accountant's work on these financials. And it's taken a little while to get up to speed with a new accountant on board and making sure that got everything in the right places. And I know it's been a process for him and for her. And so I just want to recognize the efforts put forth for that and thank them for getting us back into a rhythm. So it's much appreciated.
Oh, very true. For our new executive director to come on board and also then a brand new accounting firm and everything. Yeah.
Is that Brenda Buchholz? Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Yeah, Brenda's good.
Thank you very much for that.
So all in favor to approve the consent calendar?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. Next up, the Finance Committee.
So I'll just say the Finance Committee had our regular meeting last week and discussed at length both the amended, or actually in the last couple of months, the amended budget and the FY27 budget. And I'm just going to turn it over to Mr. Osborne to further elaborate.
Thank you. So going through the 2026 budget amendment notes, I'll just hit on some of the highlights. The beginning fund balances were trued up to the actual ending balance reported on the 25 audited financial statements. Estimated tax increment amounts are represented as no change from the originally budgeted amounts. New property assessments are not published until the end of the fiscal year. So I believe that this is a conservative approach, although they may improve slightly. Property divestitures that were budgeted of $3.3 million have been removed. These were specific to the sale of Area 5A, which we've just now published the RFP for, and Area 7, which was also budgeted as a separate divestiture, which, as we know now, has become part of our Phase 3 plan and will not be sold on its own. So those revenues needed to be amended off of that budget. The sale of 5A will move to the fiscal year 2027 budget. Interest earnings were adjusted down due to restructuring deposits and the CD maturity dates that will be attained in 2027. And again, I believe that this is a conservative approach. The total revenue originally budgeted for was $6.583 million, and that is amended to $3.25 million, largely based on the sale of the properties that we know won't happen in this fiscal year. On the expense side of things, professional services were under budgeted based on year-to-date and anticipated remaining closeout of this year. Agency-funded programs were over budget, and this was largely due to the work performed in the Phase 3 project, which we know was delayed due to the groundwork and the acquisition of the dirt and all of those things, so that the expense side of that also did not occur as budgeted. The line item for special project reserve in my opinion, was over budgeted, and that has also been reduced by 50%. So expenses budgeted originally at 4.8 million are now amended to 1.9 million. Ending balance fund amended to as of 9/30/2026. Originally budgeted were 13.38 million, and that has been amended to 13,096,000.
That's good.
So we are seeking a motion to approve the publication of that amendment for hearing, which I believe would take place in August then.
Yes, at the August regular meeting.
I move that we approve the publication of the amended FY26 budget as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
As for the 2027 draft budget, I'm using the estimated beginning fund balances from the 2026 amended budget. Interest income is based on cash flow balances that have been estimated throughout the coming year for known events and are based on a 2% rate of return, which is a conservative amount, in my opinion. Miscellaneous income of 1.9 million is noted for the sale of Area 5A. And the property tax increment revenues are based on actual numbers from the county assessor's office, and they may vary slightly due to the change in the levy rates, which will occur in September. Those will be published in September, but I don't anticipate a significant change. So we have the gross number. We don't know the levy rate at this point, which has been the case in years past. And again, I think that this is a conservative approach. Expenses of notable materiality, agency-funded programs included estimates for River and Atlas from Welsh Comer. River expenses associated with the placement of 2 monument signs, which were approved in the past by this board. It just hasn't happened yet. And the Atlas expense of 5.26 million is the largest expense line, and that is related to the work in Atlas Phase 3, which also has been approved and was delayed just due to the slowness of acquiring the groundwork materials as discussed. In the Health Corridor District, there is an estimate for agency-funded programs of $1 million. This is based on the use of the current increment on an annual basis with no increase. So that's a fairly conservative approach, as well as an additional $450,000 of supporting funds from the existing accounts. This is basically a placeholder in the budget, as there are not currently any identified projects in that district. The miscellaneous expenses are based on trend analysis from previous years, known quoted changes, or the lack of either of those two, a 10% increase year over year. Payroll expenses are based on current salary, tax and benefits for executive director's position. I did put a placeholder in for an additional $25,000 in case we need some part-time help, or in the case of doing another internship next year. Professional services are based on actual quotes and trends analysis. Special project reserve is in accordance with past years. However, in the case of the River District, there is an additional $3.5 million budgeted for the end of district projects. This is a significant source of the use of beginning funds and is by design as the district is coming to a close. The rationalization for that number is based on conversations that are ongoing with the city. There's a project that's been identified at Johnson Mill Park to rebuild and restructure the shoreline and to extend that trail. There's also been some discussion with the fire department about potential assistance on equipment that they need. And so that is again, a placeholder for the budget, and certainly something that we could discuss going forward. I do not have actual estimates, actual quotes, just basic research on those items to substantiate that number at this point. And my estimation is that with the payback to River from Atlas that will occur prior to the end of the district, there'll be that much and a significant amount more before the end of the district. So we do have some work to do in terms of planning how we want to close that district out and what means we have to use those funds. IRA and OPA payments are based on the 2026 amounts, and they're increased in lockstep with the increase in the property values in those developments. Again, they can be affected by the levy rates when they're published, but I used a fairly conservative approach there. The districts that we've recalculated, or the investments that we've recalculated, showed an increase of about 2%, and we increased the payment by 5%. And then the last line item on the budget is other income, and that's just based on infrastructure refunds that were prepaid to Invista. As they do hookups, they pay us back. Excuse me. So again, looking for a motion to approve the publication of this 2027 budget and hearing to be held in August, public hearing in August.
I'll make the motion to approve the publication of the fiscal year 2027 budget as discussed and presented tonight.
Second. Okay, moved and seconded for FY 27 budget. Any discussion, comments, questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries. Thanks, Finance Committee and Will.
Yes.
Next up on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. Will, take it away.
Thank you, Chairman. So just a couple housekeeping items before we have our consultant from Welsh Comer update us. The engineering RFQ went out was publicized in the legal section of the newspaper on the 7th and is due on July 21st. I have not received any applications at this point. I do think with regards to phase 3 and the RFP that is in draft form, I believe that there will be an update, and we will be reaching out to the ad hoc committee prior to the next meeting, the next board meeting, in hopes of finalizing that draft and bringing that in its final form to the board for the August meeting. I am hoping to have another ad hoc meeting prior to the end of this month. But we'll send out some information on that and make sure that everybody's available.
Okay.
And with that, we will invite Melissa from Welsh Comer, Melissa Cleveland, to update us on a couple of items that she has prepared.
Welcome, Melissa.
Hello. Okay, just to give you an update. So, like Will said, the RFP for 5A is out, and then on phase 3, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the earthwork, the messaging, communication strategy, and the branding that we have developed with our subconsultant, and some of the schedule updates. So the 5A RFP is out, and this is the timeline that was in that RFP. We don't have any updates on that. I don't think that anybody has reached out to Will or Welch Comer. Okay, earthwork. We did receive quite a bit of material from a church that was being built, and we thought we were going to get a little bit more. We got about 80 to 85% of what we were hoping to get. And we're going to be confirming the quantities with a flight this week. We haven't done that yet, but we think it's about 20,000 cubic yards. And there are several other sites that are planning on bringing material as well here soon in the next week or so. And we think that is going to result in about 10,000 yards. So we'll just keep hunting for material and keep working on it, and we're getting pretty close to the 40 that we needed. So we are just moving ahead with design. So then the phase 3 development. So in June, the ad hoc committee met and reviewed the branding and communication strategy and also the draft RFP for the housing partner. And so what's kind of unique about this RFP is that they're both the builder. What makes it different from our other RFPs that we've done in Atlas is they're both the builder, but they're also this long-term affordability manager, and so there's that component. So we're working with Heartland, who's our sub on that, to really figure out and dial in the ranking criteria so that we can find the best fit for this. So we are, like Will said, that we are planning on meeting again with the ad hoc committee before and bringing that final RFP forward at the August meeting for you guys. And tentatively, that schedule shows that we'd have the building partner selected in November sometime. So then they can weigh in on the final infrastructure in our design. It's mostly affecting services and things. Are you going to condo plat? Are you not going to condo plat? How many services to buildings do we need? That affects the power and gas services, kind of everything. So we're doing all the mainline design, but then we got to kind of pause till we have them. So just so you understand that. Any questions on just that? Okay. So now to talk about the branding. So the ad hoc committee saw this last month, and just as a team, and Will was involved, we kind of worked through some options with the consultant, and this is where we've landed. And so we are looking for kind of a final blessing of this tonight from you all. And in the memo that we put in your packet, we kind of backed up and explained where the currents came from. There were other options, but that one rose to the top as distinct, but also complementary of just the lumber mill and the river and everything that's going on in this development. Fostering movement and connection. And the logo's original, but the mountain range here, all of this is based off of aerial view from this property. So that's pretty cool. And then the circle, I guess, is complementary to of like the more Atlas Mill logo that's kind of a saw blade shape. So that's how all of this, this isn't my forte, you know, that's why we hire people that know how to do this kind of stuff, but that's where this all came from. So, and then they've developed a branding and kind of style guide. So as we take this forward into the communication strategy and as we start putting stuff on the website and everything about this development, we can be consistent with the look of everything. Is there any comments on the branding portion of this?
Comment. Commissioner Miller, with your background in this kind of work, are you happy with what you're seeing?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay, and so that dovetails into the communication strategy. So I think Will sent out the full packet today, and I'm hoping you were able to put some eyes on that because I have all the slides here, but I've selected just a few because there's like 40-some slides, and I didn't know that you'd want to go through every slide. So I do have them if we want to, but I've picked a smattering of just the high points here. So this is the purpose of this communication. So we know that there's going to be people within the community that are going to be questioning the need or the desire or whatever of having attainable housing within this development. And so the purpose of this is to be able to explain the project, to have a common sense message that all of us can use and products that we can use to explain this to the various people in the community. So the why was developed. So, you know, we'd like a strong economy to support local employers and workers, meet a need with housing in our community. This is a unique opportunity that doesn't really exist very often or ever in a community like ours. And it just is the last part. It completes the transformation of Atlas Mill. These were the 5 key messages that were developed as a part of this, and the ad hoc committee wordsmithed some of this in our meeting. So they also developed the project pitch here. We also wordsmithed this in the June meeting just to kind of explain in a 15-second and a little bit longer kind of what's going on here. So the slides I chose to grab for this are really on the strong economy message that wages are rising slower than the cost of housing, and it's true that employers are having a hard time either hiring or retaining because of that. And then there's just some data here that we've confirmed and checked on that. What is going on? Okay, and there's graphics that they put together that support all of those things. And then the economic impacts from a constrained housing market is, again, having a harder time recruiting. Young professionals and families are having a hard time either coming back or staying in this area. And then that last one that we added at the ad hoc committee is that the community character can change because of a decrease in full-time residents and an increase in short-term rentals. And so we added some stuff on that. So there's a series of slides like this one. I chose this one to talk about Atlas Phase 3, the income ranges that it's proposed to reach, so that this isn't necessarily people that would be in subsidized housing, for instance, you know, to be able to communicate to people who might have a concern of that type of a development being within the Atlas Mill. So this is the middle income ranges that are having a difficult time either entering the market, really. And so this gives that information. So then the message 2 was market demand, and there's quite a bit of data in those slides, but basically we get the question on why can't this need be filled by private development? Like why does this have to be this type of a project that a public entity is doing? And it just hasn't happened, right, on a large scale, and this is a unique opportunity. And there's a lot of studies and plans that have been developed within our community that affirm that need. And also employers have shared their concerns and their challenges. And this will allow at least a pocket of attainable home ownership within our community forever, the way that we're laying this out. Okay, so this just goes into after they talk to some major employers within our community, kind of what they had to say to support that, quotes that came out of those discussions. Some of these got switched out, ad hoc committee, they're different than you had seen previously, because we really wanted to focus on the culture shift potential with short-term rentals and the real difficulties of hiring and retaining people in this community. Message 3 is talking about just the uniqueness of this opportunity and why it's being done in this development. And the partnership with the city of Coeur d'Alene and how all of this just kind of came together. So there's quite a few slides on just the history, the background, kind of how this all came to be. And so that's all in here. There's even more slides than this in there. And it gives like a timeline and all of that. And then I didn't reattach the slides here because you have seen them before. You've already approved the renderings and things that GGLO put together. So I just put these on to remind you that that's also a part of this, right? To being able to show people what this will look and feel like with all of those really cool renderings that GGLO put together. So my goal here is to hopefully gain approval from you all on this branding and communication strategy. We are hearing already that there's people know that this is coming up and are asking some questions, so it'd be nice to start getting the messaging out.
Questions, comments?
Comment, and this may go without saying, but one of the things that is unique about this project, as the lay public looks at construction in the area, they see a lot of construction in the area. However, this deals specifically with home ownership,
Yeah.
not rental property. And
Exactly.
I think that's one thing that needs to be emphasized as
Okay.
we communicate the message out there. And when you're ready
No,
for
go
a
ahead.
motion, when you're ready for a motion.
Yeah.
Chairman. Are the nature of the questions so far around what it is or around why Ignite and, why not leave it to the market? Like what kinds of questions?
Yeah, it's the why not leave it to the market.
Okay.
So sometimes people that are longtime homeowners already in the community aren't understanding what's going on with this next generation that can't afford housing. So I think there are some questions like that. And then Will, I think didn't you get some questions from people that live in the Atlas development and are, whoa, are we doing a
Okay.
low income housing part of this? Like what's going on with that? So I think we need to be able to say, no, here's what this is.
Yeah, actually, most of the questions that I've gotten have been in different areas where there's construction activity taking place, and they're really concerned about the setbacks. And it was just a process of educating them as to what they agreed to buy and pointing them in the right direction of all the information that was available to them at the time that they made those decisions. It really didn't have much to do with phase 3 at this point. But I think being proactive and having this strategy in place is important because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, I think the city staff was saying that they're starting to get some questions at City Hall with people wondering what's going on with this. So I think that's where that came from.
Thanks. I just wanted to share that when the ad hoc committee went through this, we kind of did an 11th hour pump the brakes, in my view, as we talked about things, because it's just really, really important that we're able to share something with you and with the community that's easy to digest, that they get it right off the bat, and that they're able to, well, if not jump on board and support, but certainly not object to what we're trying to do. And I think we sent some of you back to the drawing board to kind of put some more teeth into this messaging, and so I'm glad that we'll have another chance to go through that, and that it'll be, fully put together by the time the board sees it.
I have one other comment, and I don't mean to be backing the bus up, but you mentioned that you are receiving soil on the site now, and I have seen that as I go through there occasionally. And my comment is that, is this soil this is structural fill?
Yes.
This is not
Yep.
just, okay, I think that's important that
And it's all been tested.
Correct. Yeah, there's a geotech sub that reviews, they have to submit proctors and a gradation first, and they look at that and decide if it can come or not, and then if it can, then they go out and test it. A lot of the material that's arrived here recently hasn't been placed. It's kind of moved to a location, and that's about it at this point.
Stockpile.
it has
Yeah,
been inventoried.
yeah, it's there.
Any other questions, comments, or motions?
I would make a motion, I believe that you're looking for approval of the communication strategy.
And the branding.
Branding and.
I was getting to that, and the branding.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say, I was thinking about this just for a second. What I think was helpful when I was reading some of the branding stuff is, I know we've heard some comments kind of like, it's all these $1.5 million homes, and they're bought by people from out of town, and the place is a ghost town, and blah, blah, blah. This project is very, very specifically geared towards people in our community and providing housing for them in our community. And there will be people in those homes.
Yep.
And they will be people from our community. They will not be snowbirds or any of those kinds of things. So I think that I appreciate the work of the ad hoc committee and the branding group, because it helped me connect a couple synapses, and I appreciate that.
Good point, good point.
Sarah, just anecdotally, I will tell you that one of my favorite photos, and it must be in all of this material, is a winter scene in that development, and all the lights are on.
Yeah.
And that's so telling, that's one of the goals, is that we want full-time local workers to be able to live side by side in their neighborhood, in their community where they grew up, and be able to walk to the river too, just like the others, so.
My comment.
Okay. Kevin, you were about to say anything?
I made the
Oh,
motion.
I thought-
You made the motion.
I know, but I thought your hand went up. We have a second
No.
also here.
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, that motion carries.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. I wanted to take just a quick moment here and go back to a previous discussion on the Bear waterfront property. Councilman Myers brought up some good questions about where we stand on that, because I think the last time we addressed it as a group was in February. So, March. So there was some work done on the 7th Amendment, which is still pending. And there's been quite a bit of effort on the part of the developer to make some changes, and we've been working with them to clarify those things and make sure that they are that they are consistent with the intention of the previous amendment, or the pending amendment, I should say. There's also been an easement process going on between the developer and the city with regards to some property that they have been working on together to enhance the parking situation. And that came to our attention, or at least to my attention, last week. And Danielle and I worked with Hillary to make sure that the intent of this group and the public nature of those parking areas was maintained and intact. And I believe that the city and Bear Waterfront Development is close to coming to a conclusion or an agreement on that.
Yep, so there's been some ongoing work between the city and Bear Waterfront because there was a pre-existing easement on that city piece of property that's just to what would that be, the east of the depot parcel. And to ensure that that easement, which needed to be modified based on the changes to the PUD, tracked with this board's intent on the utilization of that parking as being fully public. Some changes were needed to that easement, so I worked with Randy Adams and Hillary to ensure that, but we wanted, before we executed the 7th Amendment, we wanted to make sure that that was all in place, because if that easement said that they could use that parking for private parking, that wouldn't track with what your intent was with the approval. So, also, I would just add, I don't want to steal Will's thunder, but in light of Commissioner Meyer's request, I reached out to ask just what the timing is, because you're correct that the approval was for March of 2027 completion date. I received a response from Scott Hislop, which is the attorney to Bear Waterfront, and he indicated that it would not be, in fact, long enough, and that they thought it would be 12 to 18 months from permit approval. Now, the permit's been moving along with this easement process, and Hillary Anderson indicated today that the permit is near completion, so she expects it to be issued soon. She also indicated that she thought that the building is a prefab building, so she wasn't under the impression it would take 12 to 18 months. So I reached back out to Scott, and I didn't hear back before this meeting. But the long and short of it is that I think my recommendation would be that we wait on the 7th Amendment until we know what their actual timeline is going to be, one, and bring that back to you and make sure that you're okay with it. And two, until we have city council approval for that change in the easement to ensure that the parking is going to be public. So that's really just a heads up for you. If anybody has any follow-up questions, you're welcome to ask them or, follow up with us after too.
As a quick follow-up then, perhaps, the only observation is there's some financial opportunity cost to the agency and our stakeholders for the delays, as long as that's being tracked in a proportionate fashion. I get it. I live this every day. Development's hard work, and there's a lot of moving parts to it, so I'm sympathetic to where Rob is, but I'm also trying to defend the role of the foregone tax revenue the longer that stays out there. So how's that working?
So interestingly, we talked about that today also. The idea that we kind of have like a penalty that ties to the lost tax increment value for delays like we do in Atlas, we don't have that in the Bear Waterfront DDA. Typically, we had not done that prior to the Atlas project, where they were developing, like lots of individual homes or something like that. So we don't have that as a way to resolve a default under the DDA. We really just have to encourage them to move forward quickly. I mean, we have a right to, potentially take the property back. I don't think anybody wants to do that. So I think we really just need to work as a partner with them and with the city to just get it done as expeditiously as possible to avoid exactly what you're talking about. But it is an item that caused me to think, well, when we do this in the future, we should use that Atlas model so that we have a better way to motivate them. Because, I think, you remember what we saw, a very similar situation in Midtown where it just kept, and it does take a long time, but you're right, there's a cost to that. So we need to think about what protecting the taxpayers on those development extensions.
And as a point of information, I happen to be in the neighborhood working on some other stuff, noticed the absence of traction there, so it brought the question to mind. However, there's quite a bit of active construction activity adjacent to that, which I believe is being done by the same developer. I don't recall, I wasn't on the commission at the time, is that interrelated to creating tax increment in that river district as well?
I'm not sure what parcel you're talking about, so I would have to. The single-family homes are part of that same development and that same tract of land. So yes, they would be generating tax increment once they go on the roll.
So there's some
So
positive.
there is already, the properties that we've already released, which would be essentially to the north, I think, of the depot property.
Yes, this is north along the trail.
Yes, those have been benefiting the taxpayers for some time.
That's helpful offset. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Next up on the agenda is board commissioner comments. Any board commissioner comments? Seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned, and Mike, that's a wrap. Thanks, everyone.